Sebastian, can you maybe talk, because Saki already mentioned block finality, and I think in Cosmos chains, what is it, Saki, around 6 seconds, something like that? Saki?
Finality is instantaneous. The block time is because, like, when we produce a block, that block is final. The block time is a choice that is set by a bunch of parameters that the validators set. You have teams like Injective who set their parameters at about a second. You have teams like the Cosmos Hub, or like the Cosmos Hub has historically set the block time at 6 seconds. But it can be as little as like 1 second or less. It's just a question of how you set the parameters on the validators.
And what's the throughput? I actually don't know. Like, what is the maximum that ever Cosmos chain ever achieved?
What's the fastest?
Like the highest throughput, like transaction throughput.
Oh, that is the world's most meaningless number. Like, honestly, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it has nothing to. Consensus is not a bottleneck on throughput. Like, what your transactions actually do. So, like, an EVM transaction that's doing a bunch of complex state transitions is a very different thing that, like, a bank module send. So, every time people give TPS numbers, they're like arbitrarily cherry picking numbers that make them look good, and I just don't want to participate in this game.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the Cosmos philosophy is also to not shill those numbers too much. What about, how does it work in Cardano? I think Cardano has a block finality of around a day, right? How does that work? And what is the...
So basically, you can think of like finality in Cardano similar to finality in Bitcoin in a sense, which is that it's probabilistic finality. The longer you wait, the higher probability you have of it not having a rollback. So in Bitcoin, like, you might hear people say like, oh yeah, if you wait 5 blocks, this is good enough. There's no like reason it's 5 specifically. It's just like probabilistically, like, this is most likely good enough, but there's no guarantee it's perfect. So similar in Cardano, which is like the longer you wait, the better. In practice, in Cardano, there are forks, like 1 block forks, fairly frequently because it uses a VRF as part of the main protocol. So short-term forks of 1 block or 2 are fairly common and expected. But forks longer than this have so far never occurred. And so usually it's just a few minutes is fine. If you do not want to take any chances, you can wait 1 day, and the 1 day is usually like the amount period in which case like nodes will refuse to roll back even if they find a longer fork. And this is mostly about like partition tolerance. So if you're building a network, like what happens if like the US gets split up from China and 2 days later like they remerge together, like it's mostly like related to this issue. And so there's like a 1 day like maximum of how long a node will roll back, but it's probabilistic finality. The block times are approximate. Did you want to add something?
I just wanted to mention, because I worked on Mina, I've worked on an Ouroboros chain before, so I'm very familiar with.
Actually, so related to this, Ouroboros, as you might know, has actually inspired multiple other protocols. So Mina, as you might know, has a ZK version of Ouroboros. Polkadot, as you also mentioned, was inspired by Ouroboros. The main change Polkadot wanted is that they want to have much faster finality, which is not something that Cardano provided, because Polkadot, as you might know, they have multiple pair chains, and if one chain rolls back, it would roll back all the pair chains. So for them, like, this kind of long finality was not acceptable. But it has kind of inspired some other protocols. The block times are 20 seconds long, which is fairly long nowadays. And it's approximately 20 seconds because, again, Cardano uses VRS for the validator set. If you don't know VRS, it's a verifiable random function. So basically, you as a stake pool know when you will create a block. Like, you'll know on this day at this specific time you will create a block, but nobody else knows you're going to create that block. So it's kind of like your schedule, but nobody else does. And these schedules are randomly generated. And so because of this kind of built-in privacy mechanism, it's possible that there's a block where nobody gets elected, and it's possible there's a block where multiple people get elected. So there's like some randomness built in for privacy purposes. And so because of this, it tends to be about 20 seconds per block, but not guaranteed.
Yeah.